The chamber of first contact was designed to intimidate without appearing hostile. Marble from 6 worlds lined the floor. Banners of every major polity hung in careful symmetry. Ambassadors practiced calm expressions, while their translators filtered fear into neutral phrases. Humanity had arrived late to the galactic stage, but it had arrived loudly. The delegation from Earth sat behind a simple table, no gilding, no insignia beyond a single blue emblem. They had sent no royal house, no celebrity general, no legendary admiral. Just a woman named Director Hale, dressed in grey, voice steady, eyes unreadable. Across from her hovered the Council of Aligned Systems, a shifting collection of forms. Gas giants given voice through holograms, insectal monarchs clicking softly, artificial minds projecting symbols instead of faces. Power here was ancient and visible, crowned with ritual and history. The Speaker of the Council began with rehearsed courtesy. Earth was congratulated for its rapid expansion, its ingenuity, its resilience. Then came the conditions. Restricted transit lanes, monitored weapons development, mandatory data sharing. A familiar script for new civilizations. Director Hale listened without interruption, hands folded. When the speaker finished, silence stretched longer than etiquette allowed. Finally, Hale spoke, asking a single question. Who enforces these conditions? The council reacted with mild amusement. Enforcement was implied, enforcement was tradition, enforcement was the weight of collective authority. The speaker gestured to the chamber itself, to the fleets represented by those banners. Hale nodded once. Then she replied that Earth did not recognize authority without accountability. That humanity would not sign accords written by powers that could not be challenged. That diplomacy required symmetry, not spectacle. A murmur rippled through the chamber. The council reminded her that refusal carried consequences. Sanctions, isolation, fleet demonstrations. The usual tools of pressure polished by millennia of use. Hale did not threaten in return. She simply stated that Earth had already accounted for those possibilities. That the meeting was a courtesy, not a plea. And that the window for mutual respect was narrower than the council believed. When the session ended, observers agreed on one thing. Humanity had been arrogant. No fleets were visible, no champions stood behind them. Only words. And words alone had never shifted galactic power before. They would learn soon how wrong that assumption was. The sanctions began within a standard cycle. Trade routes closed, financial networks severed, exploration permits revoked. The council expected unrest, collapse, desperate renegotiation. Instead, Earth went quiet. No protests, no broadcasts, no appeals to galactic media. Human traffic vanished from shared corridors as if the species had withdrawn into itself. What the council did not see was the shift already underway. Earth had never built power to be admired. It had built power to function when no one was watching. Automated infrastructure replaced vulnerable supply chains. Local systems reconfigured for self-sufficiency. Civilian industries converted with surgical precision, not into war factories, but into resilience engines. Most importantly, Earth did not deploy fleets. It deployed absence. Border sensors across council space began registering anomalies. Cargo convoys arrived intact, but missing timestamps. Defense grids recorded test activations they could not trace. Entire patrols reported uneventful routes that analytics later flagged as statistically impossible. When questioned, Earth denied involvement without defensiveness. Director Hale stated calmly that humanity was complying with all restrictions as written. No prohibited ships had crossed borders, no weapons had been fired. The rules had been followed perfectly. That was when the Council realized the flaw in their authority. They regulated objects, signatures, identities. They did not regulate intent. They did not regulate intelligence that refused to announce itself. The first system to falter was not conquered. Its markets destabilized overnight by algorithmic trades no one could attribute. Its logistics collapsed due to predictive failures that should not have been possible. No sabotage was detected because none had occurred in the traditional sense. Earth was not attacking. It was removing certainty. A junior analyst summarized it in a closed briefing. You cannot negotiate with something that never arrives. You cannot threaten something that does not posture. The Council dismissed the report. Power still meant fleets, worlds, faces behind commands. Humanity had none of those on display. And therefore, in their view, humanity had none at all. That belief would cost them everything they thought diplomacy protected. The Council summoned Earth again, this time with urgency poorly disguised as authority. Director Hale returned alone. No escorts, no holograms, no visible defenses. The speaker accused Earth of destabilizing aligned systems, of wagging war without declaration. Hale did not deny impact. She denied intent to conquer. She explained that humanity had studied every great power collapse in galactic history. Each one followed the same pattern. Visible strength invited coordinated resistance. Invisible strength rewrote the environment until resistance became irrelevant. The Council demanded cessation, reparations, submission to oversight. They still spoke as rulers addressing a subordinate. That was the moment Hale removed the illusion entirely. She revealed that Earth no longer negotiated as a unified state. There was no single capital to pressure, no fleet command to decapitate. Human systems were distributed, autonomous, self-correcting. Even Hale was not essential. She was a voice, not a lever. If the Council chose escalation, there would be no enemy armadas to rally against. No decisive battles, only accelerating uncertainty. Markets failing before sanctions could be signed. Defense systems chasing ghosts until maintenance crews burned out. You cannot intimidate what has no face, Hale said. You cannot compel what does not centralize power. Diplomacy fails not because we reject it, but because you only practice it with mirrors. The chamber fell silent. For the first time, the Council understood that their greatest tool, recognition, meant nothing here. Earth did not need legitimacy from them. Earth functioned regardless of acknowledgement. Attempts to detain Hale failed. Security protocols reported compliance, while doors remained open. Records showed her departure logged before her arrival was finalized. By the time the Council realized negotiations had ended, they were no longer the ones deciding terms. History would later mark this moment not as a war, but as a quiet transfer of relevance. The Council still existed. Its fleet still patrolled, its banners still hung in chambers of stone and light. But decisions increasingly bypassed it. Trade routes reorganized around Earth protocols. Security alliances formed without formal charters. Humanity never claimed leadership. It simply became unavoidable. Smaller civilizations adapted first. They found Earth systems transparent, predictable, non-coercive. There were no tribute demands, no cultural erasure. Only a requirement that participation meant responsibility. The great powers resisted longest, accustomed to being seen, to being addressed, to being feared. They struggled against an influence that did not announce victories. Diplomacy, as they practiced it, depended on faces across tables, on threats measured in hull counts and orbital firepower. Earth had rendered that obsolete. Power no longer arrived with emissaries. It arrived as infrastructure, as standards everyone used because alternatives quietly stopped working. Director Hale retired without ceremony. Her name faded from public record. As intended. When asked decades later how humanity had defeated the Council, a historian answered simply, "They did not defeat them. They made them unnecessary." In the new era, diplomacy still existed. But it was no longer a performance between powers. It was a maintenance conversation within systems that already functioned. And those who still searched for a face behind authority found only reflections and the echo of a lesson learned too late. When power has no face, intimidation has no target, and diplomacy must evolve or disappear.